Max Verstappen has 11 penalty points. One more and he's banned for the next race. This situation will put extra pressure on the 4-time world champion, his team and the FIA. Some people would hate to see him banned. However, the loudest people would love to see him banned. How will this play out in the coming races? I'm Wimbo. Here's 3 seconds to leave a like. For the last 10 years or so, the FIA has set up a penalty point system where a driver who collects 12 in 1 year gets a race ban. This has only happened once. It was Kevin Magnussen who collided with Pierre Gasly last season at the Italian Grand Prix, giving him the final points he needed to sit one race out. Pierre Gasly was very close to a ban in 2022. This sparked a debate at the time on what reasons penalty points were given, but not much has changed. This time around, it's Max Verstappen, the current driver with the number 1 on his car, who is very close to getting a ban. Obviously, some were deserved, others were questionable, and others were outright ridiculous. Let's have a look at the penalty points Verstappen has gathered, shall we? The first 2 points were awarded for causing a collision with Lando Norris at the 2024 Austrian Grand Prix. Now, Verstappen veered slightly to the left before taking the turn to the right, which many drivers have done in the past, but Norris stuck around there not knowing what to do anymore after 3 botched attempts, and they had a minor touch which punctured their tyres. It was more unfortunate, but if the FIA ranks it as causing a collision, they need to give the penalty points as well. 2 points were awarded for forcing Lando Norris off track during the 2024 Mexico City Grand Prix. That one I can't defend. Verstappen was doing everything he could to cling on to the lead he had in the standings to defend his title. He took that one on the chin. 1 point was given for being under the minimum VSC delta time during the 2024 Brazilian Grand Prix sprint. Wow, I missed that one. Probably because I was celebrating this glorious P17 to win in the wet the next day too much to notice. The conditions were very strange during that sprint, so I say it's a bullshit point. Let me know what you think. 1 point was awarded for driving unnecessarily slowly on a cooldown lap during qualifying for the 2024 Qatar Grand Prix. Oh god, that was fucking George Russell with his nonsense. He drove up to Verstappen fast, but not on a hot lap, feigned being shocked Verstappen was there, pleaded and cried to the stewards, and then they took away Max Verstappen's pole and gave a penalty point. Fuck you, Woody. 2 points were awarded for causing a collision with Oscar Piastri during the 2024 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. That one was a bit unfortunate as well. Verstappen tried to get alongside on the inside, where Piastri was only focused on what was happening in front of him, which is quite normal to be fair. Verstappen slid off the curb into Piastri. It was on Verstappen here, and again, if you cause a collision, penalty points are given. And then 3 points were awarded for causing a collision with George Russell during the 2025 Spanish Grand Prix. Yeah, that one was pretty clear cut too. I'm not 100% convinced Verstappen meant to do what he did there, but it happened, so the penalty points were fair. Still, for a guy trying to squeeze out wins in a slower car, it's not that strange to be involved in some trouble here and there. In 2023, he put the car on pole every race and drove off. It was easy to stay out of bother. Lewis Hamilton had that for many years at Mercedes. That's why he has such a squeaky clean rep. We all know better. Anyway, this is the situation for Max Verstappen now, and he needs to be on his toes. There will be a magnifying glass on his driving for a few races now. Max Verstappen will lose 2 penalty points after the Austrian Grand Prix at the end of this month. So it will be 1 point for the Grand Prix in Canada and Austria. And then he'll have some breathing room again with 9 points on his license. Helmut Marko said it would be a disaster if Verstappen couldn't drive in Spielberg at Red Bull's home race in Austria. I've thought about this and realized that up to 80,000 Verstappen fans dressed in orange will be attending that race. They would be very disappointed if their hero didn't make an appearance. A race ban for Silverstone would be better. They hate him there anyway. The next 2 points he'll lose on his license are at the end of October, so that's quite a stretch too. One thing is working in his favour, and that's that he's pretty much out of contention for the title, since he's 49 points behind Oscar Piastri in the standings. McLaren and Piastri look solid, and a big upgrade is still to come for McLaren, so they might be even faster. In all my predictions before the season, I talked about how McLaren would hit a plateau, like Ferrari and Red Bull had a while ago. But even if that would happen with the new upgrades, they could still revert back and still be the fastest. A lot needs to happen before Verstappen gets back into the title fight. Like the McLarens both DNFing a few times. Mercedes engines are dropping all the time, except the ones in the MCL39. That car is just so impressive all around. So in the unlikely situation that Verstappen gets back into contention, then the penalty points would become a big factor in his racing again, as he can't afford anything while battling. As it is now, he can take it easy, take no unnecessary risks, and play it cool. He's been close to a ban before and got through it alright. And that brings me to the next thing I wanted to discuss. Race Fans, the F1 outlet, dropped an article talking about how Max is too big a driver for F1 and FIA to ban. It's a British outlet, if I'm correct, and they're already setting the mood for what will be the focus in the next 2 races. They obviously want to rile up their audience to make sure every little thing Verstappen does is within the rules. If not, they'll cry foul. A slight impeding during practice? Penalise him and ban him. Driving slowly coming out of the pits during quali? Penalise him and ban him. Farting in the car? Penalise and ban him. That's what that particular group of F1 viewers, I can't really call them fans, want. There are certain podcasters out there whose sole revenue comes from slagging Max Verstappen. Ever since 2021, they've been on a crusade to destroy the guy. I recently got unblocked on Twitter by one of them. Let's see how long it takes before I'm blocked again. He usually can't fight what I have to say with words. He's a bit of a tool. Anyway, enough about those clowns. Let's look at the other clowns, the ones at the FIA. They will be under enormous pressure too. Every decision they make is scrutinized, but giving Lawson a penalty weighs less than giving the world champion a penalty, especially if the consequence will be a race ban. God forbid Verstappen gets into a racing incident and the FIA sees it that way. The haters will twist themselves in all kinds of shapes to get Verstappen that penalty, to see him get a ban. Drivers like Russell and Norris will most likely do their usual crying over the radio about how dangerous Verstappen is, knowing he's on the edge of a race ban. Team principals will do their politics, as usual, saying that Verstappen gets away with everything. Well, not Toto Wolff. He wants to stay on Max's good side, but for the rest, he's fair game now. So yeah, not an easy situation for Verstappen and the FIA. I sincerely hope he gets through it okay and we can forget about the penalty points for a while. I enjoy the drama, but this is a little too close for comfort. Max Verstappen needs his full focus to prevent a race ban. Subscribe. Take care now. Doei doei. Where Verstappen was